How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. As you saw the title of this episode, it's just me and Roxy, and I'm literally going to title this our last LA show together. That's what I'm going to title this show. So that's in studio, me and Rox, going over some of the old stuff, whether it's the Schmoes into Collider, into SEN, into this show here. We'll talk about some of that stuff. And then Roxy's going to give us our TV picks. It's that easy. It's that simple. So if you're brand new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to it. We have so much stuff. I mean, man, I got the Inside Out non-spoiler review, which I'll cover a little bit on here today. We have Out of the Theater reactions. I'm going to go to my first, well, I shouldn't say my first screening because I saw Furiosa in New York, but I'm going to a screening of Quiet Place next week. So I guess I'll do my first solo Out of the Theater reaction from New York next week. And we have a lot of other things, man. I've been doing Acolyte. I'm going to start doing House of the Dragon watch-alongs, or reactions, rather. The Boys is coming out. There's so much stuff that's coming out, so make sure you're part of the channel. Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Brett will be back on the show with Roxy, and I think they're going to be doing, I guess I'll figure that out today on this show. I think they're going to be doing a show together at Roxy's place as right now goes. How long? Who knows? But we'll figure it out. That is the deal. So let's get to it. It's me and Rox. Here we go.
I wish I knew.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. It's me and Rox. This is our wide shot that I'm going to have to make a little bit closer. Here we go, Rox. Perfect. How you doing?
Damn.
Doing that good, huh?
Damn. Well, okay.
It's like Ron Simmons.
I have logistics questions for you, which is always the most fun to start with.
Yeah.
So are you taping with Coy and Winston tomorrow?
Yes.
Is that your last show you're filming in here?
Yes.
I'm going to say something so bitchy.
So before you do, you're going to say that you should be the last show.
I have to tell you, I do think so.
And I'll tell you that I struggled with it, that I was going to, and I'm still not 100%, that this show will not air on Friday, but I would have to make Capes live like I did last Thursday, and I just don't know if I have the time for it.
It's just like, okay, tell me if I'm right or wrong. You have to be honest.
So far, you're right, because I felt the same way.
Like, when I think of your time in LA as specifically hosting, I think of your the 2 to your 1, the 1 to your 2, whatever way is Ellis. Like, even though you guys didn't do this iteration of this show, obviously he always pops in. But then honestly, I think I put me after him before Brett.
Well, I mean, that's should you want to do a poll?
Here's why. Not for your life.
Yeah, for hosting.
Yes.
Okay.
Because, like, he does a lot of tech stuff for you, and he does a lot of building out of things, and he does a lot of, like, one-liners.
Yeah, right.
But I feel like
you don't think Brett could full conversation for 2 hours back and forth?
I do, if you were joking. I do. But he wasn't, like, when I have now been with you through so many iterations.
Yeah.
Starting at the AfterBuzz
Through
place,
thick and thin, they say.
Truly, but starting there, and he wasn't there for that period of time.
He wasn't there in 2014. No, it's so funny because I always talk about the regret that I have twice with him.
Right.
In 2007, this one still, we still talk about it because it's just when you're hanging out with someone, you automatically think like, oh yeah, that person needs to be in this. But that was right when he was starting his family. Right. Yeah. So when I did my pilot of Grasping the Straws with Eliza Schlesinger, Ellis, myself, a bunch of other people, Ethan Irwin helped me co-write it and everything too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Naveed produced it. We did a whole bunch of stuff with it, and then the writer's strike hit. But anyway, it's about this. I kind of cast the characters in this comedy club, and we were recording at this place called Room 5, where we did a bunch of things, and it was next to the Acme Comedy Theater, where Brett was a regular, which I got him into back in 2001 or something. And we were shooting at this place. The owner gave us the bar on the off hours, and we were there all night into the early morning doing this. And we wrapped 3 days of shooting at this bar that we made look like a comedy club. And I'll never forget this because it broke my heart realizing, oh, what an idiot I am. I'm walking out of we're wrapping up. We finished the day. And who do I see right as we walk out? Brett. And Brett's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we just shot a pilot. And I could see in his head, like, what was it about? And why didn't you think of me?
Yeah.
He never said that. But I could read it in his eyes.
I would have said it.
And in my head, I was like, oh my God, how did I not think of Brett when I was writing this? And the answer was I didn't see him enough.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Like if it was today, he would have been probably a main character.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh my God. And so that was, and then the other thing, right around 2011 is when Schmoes, really the podcast, 2010 is when we started it, but 2011, 2012 is when it started to pick up. And I started adding characters, and it really is the same thing. He had his family. If I could go back, I think my original cast of how I would have cast that show today would be myself and Ellis, obviously. I would have put you in as a co-host. I would have had Kate Mulligan and Brett. That would have been my starting. That would have been my starting team for the podcast, and then bringing people in that were part of it. As
Are you saying that because I'm sitting here?
No, I think because of what you said. I think that you're one of my regrets has nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
but
I know.
that's
I know
our
what it is.
Interviews.
Oh,
what were you going to
say? What you were going to say?
What were you think I was going to say?
I don't know if I can say what I think you were going to say.
About what I didn't bring you over?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first, we'll talk about that in a second too. But no,
okay.
Go ahead.
So it's nothing like. It's not that I don't think of Brett as your partner in crime. I just think of me as your number two since 2014, like consistently more than anybody.
I wouldn't say 2014. I think it was more like when you were hosting stuff during the Schmoes period, but there was Tiffany and
No, I wasn't that then. I was not your number two
Collider's
then.
when
I'm
it
saying
started.
consistently, like over 10 years. Has there gone a month? Has there gone 2 months where I haven't been on air with you in 10 years?
If it's a month, yes, because it's about the next period that we're about to talk about. But
What?
About what you said, the regret you thought.
Oh.
That was probably that month. But speaking of my regret first was that the Roxy and I think one of our biggest, the only thing, like I said, working with you was great, and working with everybody that we worked with at Collider was great. But that show to me,
You loved Collider Live.
I hated it. I liked
You loved going to Burbank early in the morning.
I loved it so much. It was so great. Spending an hour and a half.
You loved being screamed at when we were on break.
Not being appreciated, and when we were pulling in views. And
You
everything.
loved pulling in the highest numbers and having our stuff buried. You loved it.
I loved it.
Don't lie to the people.
I loved it. But I got there after being stuck in that traffic, and then we got on air and we did everything. But my favorite things to do was the kind of tag teaming interviews that we did, because I think that you and I were a very good interview team because you understood the assignment. There were other people sometimes that like, how come we don't get to interview? Because you ask ridiculous questions. That's why.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because when we never would let anybody else ask questions but me and you, when people would finally get a question, they wanted to ask something ridiculous because they knew they'd only have one, and they were like, this is my one question.
And we had a few guests almost kill hosts because of it, and almost lose guests from publicists.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm just saying, I do think it's hard when this happens to be an extreme skill set of both you and mine. Mm-hmm. And that is not an easy environment to like push yourself into. Yeah,
no, and it was one of those things where we'd have people in the room with us too, but it was those interviews were great, and the amount of people that we got in,
massive stars.
No, and that's why I give Frosty a lot of credit, because Frosty would
and Wendy, she booked a ton of people for us.
Of course, Frosty though was the one where he'd be like, I can't do, and I had the conversation with him in the office because I was still, I think when this show started, I was still an executive. But he said, there's a lot of these that I won't be able to do because I'll either be out of town, and so Collider Live should have them, or B, they're not right for me. Like the wrestlers. When the wrestlers came in, we're like, yeah, give us the rest. Those wrestlers when we did the wrestlers, they were like our best numbers. You know, we had CM Punk, we had everybody.
That was huge.
So, so all that was my regret is that we didn't get a chance to do that here, and that's also because, you know, as I just mentioned, with Steve and the connections that he had, and because of Collider and the name that they had, they were able to get more guests with, and we weren't working. We didn't have to work to try to book guests because we had the company doing it for us. Trying to book a lot of guests is very tough unless you have a booker, and I have a booker right now, and so that's going to hopefully change next year. And you know, we're still trying to build up and do new things. But no, the regret that Roxy's talking about is after I left Collider, I started to think about what I wanted SCN Live to look like. Roxy tells a different story here, but we'll complete it in a second.
A true story.
It's not the words. The words were not the words. The words were not the words. What you said.
The intention was the intent.
But the words are not the words. They're different ways of what you said. It is true. Anyway, so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do and what I wanted the tone to be. And I wanted the tone to be more comedy based. I wanted it to be bits and all those types of things. And I knew that interviews probably wouldn't happen right away. So I knew Kate was coming with me, and I knew that Brett was going to be with me. And I was like, okay. And Winston was available. So I was like, okay, I think that's going to be my crew. And then Roxy, because Roxy is, and I'll say this right here, the most loyal person you will ever meet in your lifetime. She is super loyal, and I believe Roxy, because I've asked her this question before. If I would have asked you, and I'll ask you again on air, if I would have asked you that day when you were the day that I left, when like, I want you to leave Collider Live and come with me.
Yeah, I would have left.
I know you would have. But look, another side of that too was that you had an opportunity to run the show and co-host the show yourself. So I think it was a good thing for you also. But I said to you, I think that it's not.
And I was also peeved at you, remember?
Because I was leaving?
No.
What did I do? I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
You want me to say?
Sure.
Number one, you hadn't asked me to come with you.
Okay.
And number two, you had recommended somebody else take over the show.
Oh, Riley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Riley? I think
it was Riley.
Wasn't it Riley and you though?
No.
No, I wouldn't have told him to replace you.
He hadn't selected me yet. And Fernandez asked you, who do you think should host the show? And you said Riley.
But with you.
You just said Riley.
He meant the co-anchor.
Yeah, he meant who should lead the show.
Yeah.
And I was bummed about that.
Yeah, I get it.
I was bummed about it because you didn't want me, and you didn't recommend me to take your job.
Yeah, but when I but that was a matter of he knew you were always going to be the chair that you were in. He knew you were going to be in that chair. That one I'm not gonna give you that one, because that was just a matter of who would be sitting with Roxy. It was what he was asking me.
I don't think that's how he interpreted it, because he almost gave it to Riley, and
kicked you off the show.
No, had Riley sit in your seat and then had me sit where I still was.
That's what I recommended.
But I was the co-host, and I wanted to host the show.
I understand.
But when that happened, it wasn't about. And honestly, Riley's an amazing host, and it's a fair thing to do, especially because also you guys go back further than I do, and he deserved a shot at it. But I was
didn't get it though.
I got it.
Right.
But you hadn't recommended me for it, which made Fernandez not know which way to go. And then I had to, pitch myself over somebody. It was uncomfortable. But none of that's the point. The point is that you didn't ask me to come with you and that. So it was a 1-2 punch where I was like, man, we're not where I thought we were.
That's fair. We talked that out, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, obviously.
That's why last week I walked in mad at you.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, right, that's right.
But so then that show, first of all, didn't work out without you, which anybody could have predicted.
But why, though, do you think?
For 2 reasons.
I thought you guys
this was a third reason why I wasn't stoked with you at the time. You, rightfully so, who had started that show in that time slot, kept your show. When you left, your new show was in that time slot.
Right.
And people weren't loyal to the brand name. They were loyal to you. And so they went over with you.
Right.
And we lost most of our live viewership because you were doing the show then. And Mark wouldn't move the showtime.
Right. And that's the thing is what I told him. When we sat in that room, I said to him, because so for people, the way that it went down was that I was planning on leaving in the first place. And I almost had left a year before. I almost left in December of 2018. And then I was planning on leaving anyway. And then Fernandez and I talked, and he's like, maybe it's not working out. And I was like, and I said the first thing that I thought of was, thank God I don't have to drive to Burbank anymore. But I said, dude, I'm still, and I told him in the room, and he was awesome about how I left. He said, yeah, you can promote your stuff, while you're here. I'll give you another month for health insurance. He was letting me stay for the month. He was fantastic on the way that he handled it. But I told him, I said, look, I told you when I was doing this, like a morning show is what I do. And I want to do that, and I'm going to continue to do that. I said, my recommendation is what I could almost even do on my channel is I can throw to you guys. I think you should move it.
But they had a whole slate, and they wouldn't move it.
Right, but their slate wasn't doing anything.
I'm not saying it was.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you asked why didn't it work.
Right.
Well, because now we're going up against.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You in your time.
Start again with that now where.
So the reason I think it didn't work, there's multiple. Number one is because even though it was called Collider Live, people were there for you a lot of the time. And like you saw, the interviews I did still pulled millions. Crushed.
I still didn't even realize you had Alan Richardson on when it's hilarious.
We pulled huge numbers for our interviews.
Yeah.
But we couldn't up our live viewership because you were just dominating in that time period. Because they were there for you, not for Collider. They didn't care about the brand. It's not an editorial piece, They care about the hosts.
Which is also interesting too, because it was the live viewers I showed, but it was the still topics and like the after, as long as the views were doing good afterwards, right? And
they were doing okay, but not great. The interviews were doing well, and then if you remember, we pitched a whole new show that was signed off on. We were supposed to start January 2nd. It was going to be like a variety show. Okay. So it was me, Dorina, and Perry.
Oh, I remember.
And we were going to have Roca and Riley.
Yeah.
And
what was different about that than
it was actually dope. Like it was more games and segments and things with interviews that was more stuff that like you would hate, but like more clickable. A lot of games, cool stuff. Like it was, we spent so much time on this deck.
Developing it,
developing it. Exactly. So then we got it approved and we were supposed to start January 2nd and I got into work and I got canned.
Everybody did. Yeah. It was that whole, and that's ultimately where.
Not everybody, because Perry didn't get canned and Dorina didn't get canned.
Right,
so of my show, I was the only one.
Well, yeah. Well, if yours, Makuga got let go, right? Or was he already? Makuga was gone already because he left because of the.
Roca got let go.
Roca, Riley.
So I'm not saying that people weren't let go.
I know, but better that crew, right?
Yeah.
So, then that was, and you can give me credit on this one. The day that went down, I said, come over, get on the desk right away. You and Riley came over right away.
Well, I want to give you even more credit. Right. How did I find out that I lost my job?
Was it an email? Or was it Twitter? Oh, was it the whole Twitter that blew up? That
you called me, and you said you're walking into a shitstorm today.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. Yeah, I believe it.
So
because I probably saw it on.
No, before. I don't know how you knew.
Okay.
But you were like, just want you to know. Because I was, I thought.
So I prepared you for it.
Yeah. Okay. I was on my way to do my new variety show that I had been told I had 1 year guaranteed.
So you weren't blindsided.
I mean, I was blindsided, but I didn't walk in like cheery.
Right.
I walked in like, what's going on?
What's about to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you let me know, and then, but it was still like just crazy. And then you did afterwards. You were like, "Do you want to come over here?" Which I wasn't expecting because you hadn't wanted me over here. So I was like, oh no, I'm not, I don't know what I'm going to do during this time period. And at that time I was there 5 days a week.
Right.
In the mornings. That's a big
cut. Yeah.
I mean, still to this day, I haven't filled what that was.
Right.
It was a huge, and I took my sister on vacation in December because they had sworn a year of job security.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's not, when people like.
There is no security in this space.
No, of course.
There really is.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I didn't take it the way that our friends took it.
Right.
Ever. Like, I didn't do any public posting about that.
Right.
You and I talked about it.
Business is business type thing, yeah.
Yeah, I was grateful to have the job in the first place. That's why I've never once shit on Collider Live, even though you continue to. I'm so grateful for every job I have. It's so hard out here.
I've been pretty vocal in the fact that I was grateful for the fact that
you've never ripped on Fernandez, so
never.
and neither have I. Neither have I.
He was. I still text him all the time. He
gave me a job after that for the VO stuff that I filmed here with you.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Yeah. He was. Him
and I are cool.
Yeah, he was great. He was great to me. And it wasn't that. It was just that I just didn't understand, because I guess I just come from a different school of thought, where I think that when we were working as hard as we were working, because I believe that Collider Live at that point had surpassed Movie Talk as like the thing people were going to that channel for, or that YouTube space for.
I think so too.
And
even though Movie Talk was great,
it was great.
Yeah.
But I feel like it had changed, and there was a little bit more kind of a flair to it, fun to it, and there were other people that were involved that just hated the show, hated what we were doing, and it made it less fun. And so when I think
you mean in the office?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, and so like
that was brutal.
So when you come in, you have this great show, and then you walk out to see people that are working there that should be like, oh, that was great, you guys. Next time you should do this. They're just kind of like this.
I mean, that was the best version of it, Kristian. Remember, there was a few times where I got annihilated, screamed at.
Yeah.
Like top of your lungs screamed at in a professional environment where it's just like, what?
Right, and we were just having fun and doing that. So yeah, well, it is what it is.
Thumbnails. I was like, what?
Was it about thumbnails?
One time, I won't name the person's name because it's actually a mutual friend of ours, closer with you, not the young one.
Yeah,
Anyway, and he like lost his shit on me about a thumbnail that I didn't make or have anything to do with. I have no idea what was going on in the office that day.
I remember that.
Top of his lungs. No, you were gone. It was right like the week after
I left. Okay.
Top of his lungs screamed at me. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant. I think it just became less fun. But when we moved over and then you came
when we were in the room, it was dope.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
I think for the first year for me, and then after.
How long were we there?
I think that was the problem, is that that show started a week after my brother passed away.
Yeah, nothing's gonna be fun.
So it wasn't. I mean, when it took my mind off of it. So when I started, it was. But
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, and it stayed with me and I've talked about it many times over. It stayed with me I didn't talk to any in that year. How often did I talk to you about my emotions, about how I was feeling?
Zero.
Right.
Zero.
And it bottled up, and I've talked about it, and I lost it on the air one time because of it.
Yeah.
And I still get stupid comments today, rightfully so, because I lost Schnepp. I lost we lost about 2 weeks before my brother passed. So it was like boom, boom. And then dealing with all this other stuff, not feeling supported, all of a sudden it just built up. And, you like where we're going to talk about it a little bit, when you have somebody to talk to, in your case, we were talking about BetterHelp has helped you.
I had it this morning.
Good.
Thank goodness.
Great. And so I didn't do any of that. And so it was that whole time, and then getting the interviews and doing all that was great. But then there was just other things and there were some very funny moments that we would have, and the audience though was very great, very loyal. Like I loved that's how we David B and so many different people that were doing. I mean, Thrawn, who's still around, was doing music for us, and we had so many great moments for sure. But then I almost wish that, because you remember originally what the show was supposed to be.
I don't.
You'll remember when I tell you.
Okay.
It was just Fernandez wanted to do the Kristian Harloff show, and we were going to change the main room, where the Schmoes was, into that set and make it more stern.
Yeah, I know.
And give you like the Robin booth, and it was supposed to just be me and you, and like a few cast of characters that we'd have come in.
Yeah, I remember.
And in my head, I said, "What if I'm not here in 2 or 3 years? I'm going to give them the Kristian Harloff show name."
Yeah.
Doing that. So I walked in, because I was doing one-on-one with Kristian Harloff at that time, and I walked into him and I said, "Why don't we just call it Collider Live?" Because they were doing that series, Collider Live, at the movies and stuff too, and they already had banners and stuff for it. I go, just take the name and call it Collider Live, because we'll do it live. And remember, I think we were 3 days a week to start.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Can you do it 4? Can you do it 5?" I was like, "Well, can I take Fridays off then? Because I'm doing it daily." And he wouldn't let me take Fridays off. And so anyway, so we built that thing out.
Yeah, I remember, because at that time I was at Screen Junkies still, and I was doing 2 days Screen Junkies, 3 days Collider Live. Back forth.
Yeah, and then we did. And once the show started pulling numbers, they wanted to do 5.
Yeah.
And then we built out more of a thing because when we started, it was just me and you. Makuga wasn't even part of the company at that point. That's when he had left. Because
when was he doing the TV talk stuff?
Yeah, well, I don't remember. It all gets muddled because I think that there was like a round of layoffs that they had, and Makuga and Ken were part of that at first, and then they brought Makuga back for Collider Live and other things too. So I don't remember how that worked out. And then they brought Ken back Ken took over Jedi Council when I left. So yeah, I remember exactly how it worked, but I wanted to do like what I wanted to do for that show because that was the other thing. I think that knowing what I do now about the podcast space, and this is not, and you're gonna get offended at this, but I would have not done Collider Live. I would have stuck with One-on-One with Kristian Harloff, knowing.
I'm gonna get offended.
Well, but knowing, but not that I didn't.
You just mean financially, that would have been smarter.
That show itself, knowing what
Like
Josh Horowitz does now, Chris Van Vliet. If I would have kept that show going from 20, I mean, those like you look now, those shows are still pulling numbers over there for that channel. That channel's dead. And knowing the guests that I had, and it was easier for me to do it. I wasn't dealing, and I had way more support from the. We were saying how we didn't have support on Claire. I had way more support on that show. Like the.
Because it was easier to wrap their heads around. It's not like a motley crew of whatever.
Right.
It's an interview show.
Yeah, we weren't doing clip outs on that thing yet. We could have done so that show itself, I think, could have, because I remember back then, because views were so different. Like when you would do 50 or 60,000 views on an episode, that was bad. Like, so when you do, because
it's so crazy to think
it's
about.
crazy because AdSense wasn't the same. It's better now, but like when you do 60,000 on an episode now, it's good. And we would, and like, so if a Collider, because you got to remember at one point, Movie Talk at its heyday was doing like between 10 to 15,000 viewers live.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In its heyday, it was doing like on AMC and all that stuff. It was doing like 10,000. And then I remember, I think one of our highest one on Collider Live was like 5.
It's so weird because now, like, if
6.
I get 300 live viewers, I'm like, okay, let's go.
It's a different. Well, it's also very. It's over the movie space. It's also very oversaturated. Saturated.
Have you thought about doing one-on-one?
So I've tried it. I tried it on virtual during the pandemic, and it's the same thing. It's the same exact answer I have for you. What we were just talking about with guests. It's because Collider was providing. I had Clancy Brown, Leah Thompson, all these people like lined up. It was week to week. It was easy, right? Not easy, but you know what I mean? Like I had guests just lined up. I don't have them lined up now. So it was like when I was doing it, it was like, I reach out to my friends. I'll reach out to people I know. I'll get Freddie. I'll get Katie. And it's like, it's only so many times you can interview Katie Sackhoff. And they're like, okay, well, what else? You shouldn't have anything else. We know you guys have talked about the same shit for the last 15 years. But that's why I'm trying to line up guests now. I don't know if I would call it one-on-one. I'd probably just have a big, my goal is if I can start booking guests, one big guest a month for now. I would put it on a Tuesday episode.
So 12 big guests a year.
That would be the goal. And then if those started to do well, then I'll up it to 2. Then try to up it to 3. And then piecing it out, doing clip outs, doing shorts, doing all that. And like I have some interesting like guests that were thrown to me. We're working on Anthony Michael Hall right now, which will be a really, and he was just on Michael Rosenbaum recently and working on that one. That would be great. To sit down and talk to him about a bunch of different things. There's another name that was thrown out to me yesterday that they were like, would you be interested? And this person was like, yeah, are you kidding? There's a few really good names. So the answer is I don't necessarily think I would call it that because I don't need to anymore because it's on my channel. You know what I mean? Like that was the other thing is that was one of the same reasons I thought about the one-on-one with Kristian Harloff is on Collider. If Fernandez wanted to be a douche about it, he could have said you can't use that name anymore. That's what you can't call it one-on-one with Kristian Harloff anymore. If he wanted to, he never did that. He never did that ever. No, like I said, I can't say a bad word about him. He was fantastic to me all the way around. Let me.
I can't not say a bad word about him, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying I'm saying in my personal experience of how I
I
know what you mean. I know what you mean. But I
can say a bad word about everybody we work.
Right? Yeah, sure. But I mean, like
I can say a bad word about myself.
Yeah, but people were like, they said to me like, "Hey, did Fernandez do you wrong?" Never. Do I think that maybe some other people feel that he might have? Maybe, but my personal experience never did.
I think it's more about not on purpose.
Not on purpose.
Do I think it's good business practice for people to be walking in thinking they have a year worth of a show and then to can them when you're out of town on vacation?
Right.
No.
Right.
I don't. I think he probably doesn't think that's the best way he could have handled it now either.
Right. I think probably not. And then a lot of stuff kind of right when that happened. Then he will definitely probably tell you not so, because there was a whole big Twitter storm that happened.
Yeah,
right
that was
afterwards.
crazy heat.
Right, and he had to
because
play
a lot
catch up
of
on
our
that.
people were posting horrible things.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
That was a wild time.
It was a long time ago.
That was a crazy time.
But anyway,
yeah, wow.
But transferring that over into like what we're, then, well, before I get into the SEN days, because we'll do that too. I wanted to tell you, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not kidding around when I tell you guys that, and I never will say that there's an excuse for anything. Anytime when if you bottle up your emotions and you don't talk to people about it, then whatever happens, you gotta take responsibility for it, and I know that. But that's why I also say it's very important to talk to someone, and that's what Roxy mentioned BetterHelp before. I want to tell you about BetterHelp. Let me tell you about BetterHelp right now, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Here you go. All right, guys, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. So, BetterHelp, I've been telling you guys about BetterHelp for a while now. We've had a lot of people that they've been helped out by. So, this is why the big thing is sponsored by BetterHelp, because what's the first thing you need to do? If you had an extra hour in your day, would you go for a run? Would you take a nap? Would you read a book? Would you show up for a friend? Well, the problem is a lot of us spend our lives wishing that we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. So I've mentioned Roxy Stryer. She's talked about it many times. She's really benefited from BetterHelp. I've had people inside of my family that have benefited from BetterHelp because talking to someone helps. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, it's designed to be convenient, it's flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/bigthing today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, so thanks again to our friends over at BetterHelp. Really appreciate them being on board. And Rox, I'm glad you had a chance this morning to talk.
Yeah, thank goodness. This is my day every week. Don't miss one. It was really good today. Because I always love to bring the show down. I had a dear family friend pass away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last night, and so it was like perfect
to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really, really rough, and it happened in a really unfortunate manner, and it's hard to process your own emotions about things. And I had work today, and I had things I have to do,
so you
and
power
life
through
has to move on,
Right.
and it's like finding. Band-Aids and then finding more long-term solutions, and both those things being valid, like finding quick fixes throughout the day and then finding ways to really process things. And it's just so helpful.
Good.
It is better.
Okay. It is better. Yeah. So anyway, so if you guys want to go check it out, the link is in the description. Super helpful. But then, transitioning into, I don't remember, you can tell me because you have a better memory than I do, when it came to SEN, because I know that when you came, because you had left Collider, and then we had been doing shows for at least 2 months at that point, because I left in November. So you guys did November, December, and then canceled in January?
On January 2nd.
On January 2nd. So January.
But we didn't do shows for the last 2 weeks of December.
Okay. So like you had basically 2 months. So then January comes. When did you start doing SEN full time? I don't remember.
I actually have a really hard time remembering
right?
SEN in general because there was different sections of it, because there was SEN in person,
Right.
But then the majority of SEN was virtual.
Yeah, and you hosted.
And
that.
I hosted.
You were the main host.
But that was because of the pandemic, right?
That I didn't do it.
That we went to fully digital.
Oh yeah.
That was because of that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So before that, I was in studio.
I was here. You guys.
But I was on. I don't know how often. Twice, maybe a week.
Okay, twice because what happened there, and so what people. The difference is that with Collider Live, we had people for 5 days a week, and Fernandez goes, "Here's my budget, and this is how much you can pay people per week." I didn't know what the hell my budget was in SEN.
You didn't know how much money you'd be making.
I had no idea. I was running off Super Chats and still off the Schmoedown Patreon and everything else too. So I had said...
But don't say it was like a favor that I was hosting 5 days a week. I was the only one who was making the channel.
Oh, I didn't say it was a favor.
Oh, you
favor?
said, see, I did 5 days a week.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But like that was, yeah, you were really probably the only person that could have hosted that show.
Well, only because of the games that I was figuring out.
So
but that was the second iteration of SEN.
That was the second. That was once it went virtual because it was starting. So what happened with that show is that, as I was mentioning, when I had the idea, I was like, okay, you could do essentially what CAMEO is doing with the Super Chats, right? You do and that's what I do for my live shows now. When I do my live show with Roca, it's the way that I always wanted to do SEN. It was like you do all the topics, and then at the end of the show, you do the Super Chat questions. The problem was when we didn't really have any sponsors yet. We were starting to get some, but we didn't have any. And we were running Schmoedown off the Schmoedown Patreon, so I had a very limited budget of what I could do. I'm like, how am I going to pay Roxy, RB3, Goddard, Riley, Kate Mulligan, Winston, Sabrina, Brett? How am I going to pay everybody in order to do it? And David Michael Frank, who set it up, was like, hey, have you ever tried to do the donation bot thing? And I was like, well, what is that? And he goes, well, you can basically set the tip in Streamlabs.
Oh, yeah, Ellis hated this.
I hated this.
Yeah.
But this, basically, we called it the Schmobot. And what I
completely forgot about this.
Schmobot is what destroyed the show for me. Because the quality of the show itself, when we were vibing, was awesome. The jokes, like everybody laughing in here, never had that feeling of like we're not appreciated because we would finish up the show, we'd be cracking up, and we would have a great. Roca was also on the show a lot, and so we started to think about, well, okay, well, if you want it, you could probably make some money to pay everybody if you did these donations. You let the fans interrupt the show if they throw in $20, whatever it is, and he was 100% right.
Yeah. If you needed to pay for all those people, that's the only way to have done it. It was
one of the things when I brought it over to Skybound, because we started it before we went to Skybound, and they looked at how much the show was making.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
They looked at how much money the show was making monthly, and they're like, okay, well, that adds into the revenue. It makes sense for us to be able to do this, this, and this, and this. And then all the money went to everybody on the freaking, on the show, but I was able to pay everybody. Mm-hmm. But it destroyed
the quality of
the show. I remember vividly driving on an episode that I wasn't on, and driving down the highway and listening to him being into the conversation, and then a Schmobot would interrupt the conversation, and I went, ugh, and I couldn't really imagine what the audience felt. And then the problem always was, because it happened to me and it happened to everyone else, they forgot what they were talking about before the Schmobot came in, and that conversation that was so good was lost. So imagine like right now, we're in the middle of a conversation and the Schmobot comes in.
Yeah. I don't have to imagine. I did it.
And I was super appreciative of the fact that people were generously putting in there and throwing it in there because we asked them to do it.
Right.
But it turned the show into a telethon. Mm-hmm. And then even more so when we went to virtual, because it was more so like, because I wasn't on it, and I was like, Roxy, and I said this to you. I said, I need you to host the show because you're the one.
And we had certain marks we were trying to hit.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was difficult. The reason I started doing the games was because I'm very aware. I think you know this, Kristian. I'm pretty business savvy in terms of there were 6 people on the show every day.
I know.
And I know that if we are not making X amount, then there's no longer, some of those people aren't going to have a job.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I know my job is to hit X amount, or people are getting fired because we can't pay them.
And you're 100% right, and I hated that about the show.
Because it makes it so that you have to choose over quality. You have to be focused on
it's a telethon.
Yeah.
It turns into a telethon,
hard.
And that's when I made the decision of like, we can't do SEN anymore. We just can't because it wasn't fair to everybody else. They were just there to kind of like, how do we do? It was stressful to try to figure out what games to come up with and all this. I'm like, that's not when we started doing this. And that's ultimately where Big Thing came from.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we still, because we never got back to that point and because it was the thing that was making us the most money, all of us still lost that job.
I know. Well, yeah, but by the time
I was there 4 days a week.
I know. Well, yeah, SEN.
And I'm here once.
Yeah, it's true. I get it. But
and everybody that was like that. Like people were 3 days, 2 days.
Yeah, but the problem was once I took it over from Skybound, I looked at my budget monthly. I'm like, I cannot afford the show. I will be bankrupt. I'll be bankrupt.
There's nothing you could do.
There's nothing I could do.
It's just that's the nature of this business.
Yeah.
It's so hard. That's why it's been impossible. Like since the Collider days to fill that, like it's so hard to have a 5 day a week on air consistently.
Well, that's why I did the show
that's
this
why
way.
You created it for yourself.
I mean,
not for yourself.
I know what you mean, but Big Thing, like the big thing was created because it started, I think, with like just me and Ellis doing something on the air about just BSing back and forth, and then I was like, okay, we can turn Sith Council into something too, and then I was like, but I want to pre-tape. I don't need to do live. And then I started to build it up, and then once we were able to get sponsors on board and do that, I was like, okay, and we build up the crew and make sure that you know that sometimes you have this, sometimes you have this, but I still do think, and then I dip my toe back into the live show area because I've been doing it with Roka every Monday, and that show because I really have learned that about the YouTube algorithm in general, that it's like when I started doing the live show on YouTube, it was like, it was okay, but now that I do it consistently every Monday, it starts to push people and go,
that's cool.
Do a live show. And so I've done a few live, and I've done a few live with Coy and Winston on Capes and Cowls, but I think that the idea would be, because what I want to try to do is I think that there's a way to do it where we can do, and I've mentioned this beforehand, we could do me, you, Steph, Mike, and Brett once a week to start. And now with the Video Ninja thing that I have and the other stuff that I have of let me just go. And now with the program that I have to make it virtual, can make it look good, and also know that we can have consistent conversation without interruptions. Plus, if we do get a guest, we can either, the show would probably have to go to 2 hours.
If there was a guest or in general?
No, in general. I think it'd have to go to 2 hours because I think that it would have to be similar to what we did with Collider, right, where we'd open up, have some few conversations, how's everybody doing, hit some main topics, that if we get a guest, either I'm interviewing somebody by myself, placing into the show, you and I get a virtual interview together, we're placing it into the show, we end the show, the last half an hour, with questions. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, and we can...
Instead of this, or in addition to this?
I don't know yet. I think that maybe there'd be something where it's just... Maybe there's a show where it's me and you. Maybe it's, I don't know yet.
So what are the shows that you really want to keep regardless? Capes and Cowls?
All the shows I'm keeping. It's just a matter of what I do with like what iteration of it is, right? Like, so, because there is, what I do like is I like this show a lot. This one we're doing right now, and especially the last.
You like this current moment?
Yes.
You mean our last show in this studio you like?
Yes. But I also mean that it's like, the idea that I don't always have to. There's some people that made comments about like, I tune into this show for movie news. Well, you can do that on 4 out of the 5 days. Mm-hmm. I like that we're able to just talk, and I don't know where it's going to go today. We know we're going to cover the TV picks.
We got good ones, and you finally watched.
I watched one before you did,
Crazy.
And we'll talk about that. So to answer your question, as far as how that goes.
Okay, blind man, what just happened?
I just looked to see how much time we had. But
you were like,
my eyes are so shitty now. But when it comes to it, Mondays will be that show with Roka, that live show. That show's been doing well, and it's easy for the two of us. We hit the main topics for whatever happened for that over the weekend and what's about to go down. Usually cover a lot of box office stuff.
Cool.
Tuesday is going to be interesting. Because Tuesday now is an open spot. Tuesday, that show, the last one.
I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, the UAP Tuesday is now on the Down to Earth channel.
Yeah.
And so this week, and of course, the final one with Riley and I did pretty well. But it's moving so Tuesday will be an open spot. And I think to start, I'll probably do a live show by myself just on Tuesday because my studio is not ready yet. It's not going to be ready until July for guests and stuff too, but it will be. And then I might do a Tuesday live show with 2 New York people, but I don't know who they are yet. I have ideas. I have a couple ideas. Then, so Wednesday.
What are your ideas?
I have a couple different ideas. I have like Matt Serra, obviously. Samantha, who I told you about. And then, so do you know the name Tom Chattelbash?
He's a past life of yours friend.
No, Tom Chattelbash was doing YouTube movie reviews before Stuckman, before Johns. He was
I didn't know anybody was doing it before them.
We were. Schmoes was 2 years before them. Oh. But they came in. Johns, I think, started in 2009 or 2010. I always get it wrong.
Let me look him up. Tom Chattelbash?
Tom Chattelbash. And so
that spelling has got to be tough.
Chatalbash. And so he was like 16 or 17. He was really on a trajectory to like be huge. And he stopped because he went to college and decided he didn't want to do YouTube stuff. And
I've seen this person.
Yeah, and he was in FCL for a little bit too. And he took a break.
That's probably nice.
And then he came back. And I think he just recently hit like 10,000 subscribers on his channel. But he's very
15.
15. Okay, he's very well informed on movies. He's a movie buff. He's got a good sense of humor. He lives in the same area,
cool.
Regardless, general area to where I am. So he might be somebody. There is a comedian that has performed at Alice's show that I'm interested in. There's a few different people that I'm thinking about for like the Tuesday show, right? And then Wednesday is where I think that I would want to do our show because it's usually when all of us tape our show anyway.
But not Sith or whatever.
Sith has been toast for it's really. I mean, even you watch the episode, all 3 of us are kind of just getting a little stale on it right now, and hopefully it bounces back. But right now, it's just kind of like. It's not fun for the audience to hear us go like, I don't know, this one was okay. So, we'll give our opinions on it when the show's on itself, but we want to talk about other stuff. And I think that it might be more fun for all of us to potentially do that Wednesday as the live show, right? To where in my head, maybe Thursday is another live show in New York or another in-studio show in New York. I don't know.
Not Capes.
Friday's Capes. Friday would be Capes.
Oh, I thought you filmed it Thursday.
We film it Thursday.
Yeah,
so that's my initial. That's my thought. That's what's in my head right now. Tomorrow that could be different. Right?
So you think you want to do 2 New Yorkers show?
Possibly, yeah. But
so it began.
No, but I told you though, you can do what I want to make sure that the audience knows is that you're going to have in studio shows. You're going to have LA crew. You have a New York crew, and then you're also going to have the out of the theater reactions that aren't going anywhere. The regular reactions, like there's going to be a lot. Why would if I'm going to start a live show, you don't think I'm going to put everything into that live show?
Let's talk about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Instead of doing shows where half the time it's just me and you, and sometimes Brett's here.
Right.
He's here good amount. Now it's going to be 6 people on the show.
6?
Brett, me, you, Steph,
Mike. 5.
Okay, 5.
Yeah.
I thought there was a 6th person.
And Mike sometimes is working, so it'll be like between 4 and 5, yeah. Is that too much?
I don't know. I'm just saying it's not more.
Right. I know what you mean.
It's less.
So you don't prefer that then?
No, I'm not saying I don't prefer it.
You don't know yet. It's too new.
I don't know what it would be. I thought, that's not in addition to getting this. You're getting this group show. That's instead of this. You're doing the group show.
But that's like I said.
It's a thought. I know.
It's just a thought.
I don't know that it's a wrong thought.
The other thought could be this. The other thought is Monday, same thing I just said. Tuesday, same thing I just said. Wednesday is that live show, right? Thursday goes to Capes and Cowls. And then Friday is New York person in studio, Roxy from virtual. Also possible.
There's a lot of possibilities. The whole point is you're going to figure out what works for you.
Right. And
you're going to see.
That's what I
think you're going to, like I said, want more in studio stuff.
I don't know.
Your energy is like, you need peeps.
But I also remember, though, I can only put 3 people in that studio right now.
That's a lot. That's what you do in here.
Yeah, I know. But I think, it's a matter, it's still,
we'll find you good people there, and then you're going to know what to do.
Yeah. and then it's going to grow out. And what I'm also ready for is that for the first 2 weeks, I'm going to be there with the background that's already there, and it's like
people are.
it's the white wall and the pink lights and whatever it is too. And I don't love it. And Brett doesn't love it and everything too. And the audience is going to be complaining about it for 2 or 3 weeks. But then we already have ideas of the movies and the stuff that we're going to put in the background.
Can you make it look sleek?
Sadie's going to help.
So yes.
Yeah. So yeah, because she already ordered we got like poster boards like that. We're going to put like some of my favorite movies and comedians and everything too. Can put it in the background, and then we'll set it up, and then I'm probably going to have to get a new table. The table that we have there I don't love, but that'll take time.
Can't send this one.
I wish. I was going to send it. The problem is this is so much weight. It's so much weight.
By the time you guys are watching this table's on the street.
Oh, I hate that. It was custom made, this table, and I couldn't sell it. I kept trying to sell it. Nobody would buy it. It's custom made. It's like 8 months old, maybe a year. Anyway.
That's devastating.
It sucks.
It's a sick table.
It really is, and I wish you had a use for it.
I know. The table at my place is custom made too.
So good. All right, so we dove into a lot of things, past memory lane, if you will.
Nuts.
I
cannot believe this is our last show.
I know, and before we move on to your TV stuff,
yeah,
Inside Out 2.
Man,
you're gonna love it.
Ugh,
you're gonna love it.
Can't wait. How is Anxiety?
Really good, but I don't want to say too much. But like really, really good. Our cast of characters reunite again. Our emotions that we know.
Who do you relate most to?
Right now in my life, Joy. What? Just because I'm leaving, you mean?
No, I was just really happy for you.
Oh, good.
It's
yeah. Well, because I've been doing.
That's like the most unbelievable answer a person could give.
I've been doing some work, Rox. My own work.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Do you don't ever hear people going through a move say that the thing they relate most to is joy?
Well, yeah, because I think that because I have there's things that I've been doing like in my routine in the morning that have really been working for me.
What?
So I've talked about it many times over about like with manifestation and all those types of things too. And people don't understand about manifestation. What they think it is that they think like I'm going to be a millionaire, and it's like it's not. You can't magically make things happen. It's not what it's about. It's about shaping your mentality into positive thinking. And it's about a matter of waking up in the morning. And if you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm so stressed out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and that, you're literally willing your energy into that. And it's like if you wake up in the morning and say, I had a great day today. I wound up having a really good conversation with Roxy. We had so much fun on the show. I literally said this to myself today, and so far so good. And I said we had a great show. It was great to see her. Steph and Mike came in. We had a good show. My kids were in a good mood. We did this. We did that. And I went to it, and I'm excited. And we had a really good time watching a movie tonight with my wife. And like these little things, like you're just putting it out there. It doesn't always go 100%, but your head, it's like our minds, what we do with our subconscious and everything too. It's just so much more powerful than we actually realize with consciousness and all that. And I truly believe it, because when I started doing that, and I started doing that in general, like I found things changing, because then, and it's not magic. It's a matter of you're just retooling your brain into the way that you think. Because I used to do that all the time. Like, it's not going to work out. I know it. Here's another time. Like, of course, we're going to try to get this freaking sponsor, and something's going to happen, and that's what happened. Because I was telling myself that wasn't going to happen. And then it was a matter of, okay, yeah, it didn't work out today, but because something else better is supposed to happen tomorrow. And it is easier said than done. And it is a mentality of keeping yourself that way. But that's why we why. Joy. Long-winded answer.
No,
but
it's not.
But the movie's awesome.
It's important, and that's cool.
Yeah, the movie's really good.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, and I took my 12-year-old to see it, hit home to her, because it's Riley at 13 years old. She's trying to, going through puberty, trying to figure it all out. There's some really good emotional moments in it.
Do you think it lends itself to have an Inside Out 3?
Sure. I mean, I think that you can do that, because even if you get her to a place where she's going to college.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the same way, Pixar needed a hit because Pixar.
And this is it.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is. I mean, this.
It's my favorite Pixar movie.
Then you're gonna love it.
The first one, I mean.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it because it's you know how Toy Story when Toy Story 2 came out, you're like, how are you gonna be better than the first one? You're like, whoa, Toy Story 2 is awesome. And then Toy Story 3 was like maybe even better. And then Pixar really hasn't had that type of thing. Like you've had some fine movies, but nothing where you're like, oh man, this to me is one of those movies. It's pretty great.
So excited.
It's great. I thought it was great. I mean, there's some familiar beats, things that you've seen like from the first one. There's a couple moments like, oh, that's kind of what they did in the first one. But it doesn't.
Who cares?
Who cares?
The first one worked.
First one worked. Yeah. But anyway, okay, now it's TV time, man. Roxy's got some TV picks, and we'll start with the first one here. Rox, what do we got?
Under the Bridge. This show it keeps showing up on people's top 10s of the year list. And I was like, okay, I need to watch every show that's going to be a major award contender. So let me make sure I'm caught up on things. And so we started watching it. It is with Lily Gladstone and Riley Keough, and it is based on a true story, a murder trial of a teenager who was essentially beaten to death and figuring out who exactly did it. The show is unbelievably well done. I think it's very, for lack of better words, tasteful with what they decide to show and what they don't. Like sometimes you ever just feel like you're watching a show, it's just like gratuitous violence and you're just like over and over again watching the most horrific things and you're like, why? Like I got it.
Right.
I feel like this show understood that this was more about the trial and like teaching about bullying and what kind of happens. And so they did a great job with it. Really sad story, but interesting take on it. And I didn't know about this story at all.
And so you recommend it?
Yeah, I really recommend it. Under the Bridge.
All right, next one.
This is for you, Kristian.
I don't think that's true.
This is my trash reality at its finest. This is the show that takes all the other contestants from the biggest reality shows and puts them in a house and makes them try to find their perfect match. And whoever dates the person that the people believe is the perfect match, they win the show.
Okay.
So people who are like you've seen as the villains on all of the other things and all trying to hook up and find their perfect match. It is just so much drama. It's hot people drinking and boning and then boning the next person and trying to be good people so they can win the money, but they're just not. So it's a great,
trash.
If you like trash TV, this is it at its finest. It's on Netflix. They dropped the first part. Now they're dropping the second part. Catch up. So good.
Junk food.
Yeah. Joe Coy put out a special, which I was interested in watching, especially after the award show debacle.
Yeah. Did he talk about it?
He did not. And I was like, interessante. I thought he was going to like really address it.
After?
I don't know.
Or before, maybe?
I don't know. It popped up on my Netflix. I clicked right on it because I was like, oh, I'm curious what Joe Coy can do because I had never seen his stand-up.
Yeah.
I only watched his debacle.
Sure.
And then I saw people like Winston, whose opinion I respect, being like, this is a bummer because Joe Coy's an unreal stand-up. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
So then I clicked on this.
And?
He's really good.
Yeah.
He's super funny. He did a great job. I was like, man, that's a bummer for you.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, it was super funny. I was like, that was relatable and funny, and he's self-deprecating at times, but he does like some funny crowd work. He's just he's a funny stand-up. Yeah,
it might have been. Maybe it was before. Who knows? All right. So final one that we're both watching.
Oh my God, Dark Matter, man. I'm up to date on this now. You are too. I watched this week's episode, which gives us at the end like so much suspense on what is going to happen next.
Leading into the last episode.
Yes, this is what feels to me. Yeah, they crushed this penultimate because this feels like a Severance or a Silo where you're like, what? How's this gonna go down?
Yeah, I love this show so much.
It makes me wonder what the legs are for a season 2 because we have. I don't want to give any spoilers, but this is an alternate universe situation kind of thing. And we've left some people in places that's
probably season 2.
So especially 2 different people. Yep. But yeah, I'm like, huh. And I would be interested in that. So I feel like they've done a great job because I think by the end of season 1, we're going to be more than satisfied.
Yeah, I hope so.
But then I'm also going to be able to see where this could go. But yeah, it feels like it's final countdown.
It really does. How good is Joel Edgerton?
I think he's amazing. I love him.
My wife said to me after, she's like, he should win for this because
He'll definitely be nominated.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but he's so convincing in what he's asked to do in this show in both sides of things. You know what I'm saying?
Like, but Tatiana Maslany never won for Orphan Black. So not that it's the same thing, but I'm just curious if they're actually going to.
I wonder. Jennifer Connelly's so good. And
she's excellent.
Yeah. Who's the actress that plays the doctor?
I don't know. She's so good.
She's been in, I thought she was in
And
Predators.
She's so hot.
She's really good. The cast is incredible.
Really good.
It's a really good show.
It's one of those, like, remember when you asked me and Brett, who would you date or who could you see each other?
Yeah, we didn't air that.
Oh,
didn't air.
That's hysterical. Whatever. The point is, it does make you think about your own life. Like, what other versions of my life are out there?
Right.
And as somebody who doesn't believe in the one, I believe in many ones.
Right.
I believe different walks of life. And I wish I could live multiple lifetimes, but you only get one. It is interesting to see which versions of you.
But that's why, so as I just mentioned, it's another reason why I like this show so much, because it's quantum physics, all these other things, but it's also
sliding doors.
But it also adds in the manifestation stuff too. Like, he has to write down things and versions that he sees and
specifically in this episode, it was the most powerful to me because once it clicks for him that it's not
don't
blank, but it's blank.
Yeah.
I was like, of course it is. Right. Like, just so.
Yeah. And it's like the idea of it and the idea of consciousness, the idea of all these different things. It's weird how it all kind of plays into the. Like, I've really been even more intrigued by that stuff over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, and especially the last year covering all the UAP stuff and all that stuff too. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. I love the show. It's my favorite show that I think has been out on television so far this year. This year, I don't know what else.
Well, no. What was my top show of the? Shogun.
Yeah, I still am 4 episodes in.
I think I now go Shogun.
Yeah.
And then this is probably tied with Fallout.
Okay.
For me, it might be ahead of Fallout. Honestly, I love Fallout, but this is my jam.
I see this. The reason why I know this is number one for me, obviously for the reasons like you said last week, you probably thought that I would have wrote this show.
It's so perfect for you.
And I can't miss it. Like when I knew that it was on last night, that I was like, I didn't know it was on. When my wife and I were looking, because we watched it, we're like, oh, it usually drops like Wednesday morning or whatever it was. And we checked it Tuesday night, it was on. Like, yeah, let's watch it. And I haven't felt that by any of this show. I want to, and I'm really enjoying Shogun, but clearly I haven't been like, oh my God, I gotta do it.
I think Shogun for me has that 360 production value as this one. We do go to different places, but they
a lot of similar locations.
Similar vibes.
100%. Shogun is way more
story-wise, I'm as into this as I was into this, where the story is just like, ooh, let's go.
Well, there you go. So let's go, everybody. Check it out. Yeah. What? Did I miss something else?
What the hell?
What'd I miss?
What?
What did I miss?
What did I come here talking to you about?
I don't know.
Your honor.
Oh, I forgot about that. Go ahead, finish.
What happened?
Sorry, it wasn't on.
Listen to me.
Is it on there? Oh, it's not listed. It says 63, 64, 65, 66, and then it just says your honor on it.
Oh,
so
that's where I'm at with how many shows I've watched this year.
Oh, that's
so I don't know why.
So that's not my fault. Go ahead, finish.
Kind of your fault. Okay, Your Honor. So this is a Bryan Cranston show. I don't know many people that are watching it. It is on Netflix. They just dropped a season 2, so I have never seen this. So I went back to start watching season 1. Okay. The premise of this is just to talk a little bit about the first episode. Teenage boy hits a person and hits another kid and kills him. Okay. Flees from the scene. He was having an asthma attack and couldn't breathe.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer.
Flees from the scene. Yeah. He comes home and his dad is a judge.
It's
Bryan Cranston.
Right.
And then they have decided that they are going to come forward with it.
Oh, okay.
They're not going to cover it up. And then something happens where something's revealed about the kid that they decide, oh, no, we have to cover this up.
Okay.
And it is about keeping that cover story.
Okay.
I'm just in season 1, episode 5, enthralled.
But you love it.
Yeah. Okay. Also, there's no better actor than Bryan Cranston.
He's so good.
So it's just like the show is really good, but also
he's just that good.
It's giving me Breaking Bad. I'm like watching it.
What's he on?
It's not like Breaking Bad. It's Netflix. It's not like Breaking Bad, but he is. I'm like, intense. Oh my God, right? Yeah. You are insanely you're so good.
I am the one who knocks. All right. So Roxy
Exactly.
Striar,
No!
where can they find you?
Not here.
I know, it's true. Where can they find you?
That's sad.
Finish up.
Okay, everywhere at Roxy Striar. And on the big thing,
Yes.
just not here.
You will be. I mean, when are you going to come in?
I'm doing a thing right now on my channel, actually. You're not going to think it's cool, but I think it's cool. I'm doing 33 till 33. I'm turning 33 in July 13th.
I saw live streams, right?
Yeah, I'm doing live streams for 33 days in a row, and I'm doing each year, like the best movies, TV
that's
shows,
fun.
music,
Well, that's
91,
cool, that's
91,
cool.
92, 93, like
great.
so on until we get there. It's been really fun so far.
That's
I'm just
fun.
a couple of years in.
Well, there you go.
And then talking about my best life memories that year and people's. It's been cool.
Yeah, so go and check Roxy out. Go support her over there, and you'll see her here. And, inside of the comments alone, please let us know, what would you rather see? Would you rather see a live version with all those people that I'm talking about? Would you rather see this show stay the way it is, with Steph and Mike stay the way it is? Would you like a combined show? What say you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You guys are always really good about that, so I want to hear what you think. Thank you to Roxy. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on Monday from the new studio. It'll be me and Roka on the live episode, and there's tons of other things. Actually, I might even have a reaction to House of the Dragon episode 1 even before that, because it comes out this Sunday, I'm pretty sure. And Roxy will probably be talking about that
And
next
the
week.
Bears coming.
Yeah, and The Boys is coming out
Boys, I
today.
know.
They're already out at this point.
Bridgerton, the second part of the season.
So much. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.